So we actually made it up to part 7, which is pretty crazy. Right. Let's get right to it because we got a lot to cover. A few things to go through. First thing I want to do is Control N, drag that out, and this is actually not the one I wanted to do. When we painted on our dinosaur head in the last video, or dragon head, you'll notice that we painted on the version that didn't have all the texturing or the different texturing going on. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'll hold Shift to open the Subtool palette here. Now, if I click here and I go in solo mode, you can see that this dragon had a lot more detail on it, right? So it'd be nice to get the information from this dragon onto here. But we only want the paint information. We don't want everything, right? So the way to do this is we're going to select the one we want to get the polypaint onto, which was the color information. And I just hit Shift D to go down to my lowest subdivision level. As you can see, I'm at my lowest level. Then what you're going to do is we're going to store a morph target. So we're going to click Store Morph Target. Okay. And under Project, we're going to set our distance to 0.1, should be good for us. And we're going to click Project All. And what it's going to do is going to project all the detail from anything, like above down below. So let me just push this down. I'm just pushing this down so it's not in the way. So we're going to grab the color from this and throw it on this. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so we're highlighted on the one that had the detail. We're at the lowest level, okay, of our geometry, which is sub-level 1. Remember, this is sub-level 5. So we're going to go to the lowest version of that. And we store the morph target. Okay, this way we can morph back because it's going to change the sculpt, but we're going to morph back with a morph target. So as you can see right now, I just did a project all, and it did an okay job, but we're losing the detail. So we're going to click Switch, and what Switch does is it's going to switch back to that other version that I had. You see that? So now we have our color information, but we have it on this. Now there is a little bit of cleanup, as you can see. On things like this, but we can easily, clean it up, just by color picking and grab, like we did last time, grab RGB, maybe grab a spray, maybe a soft alpha, and going back over some of these areas, we can start kind of cleaning things up here. And or freehand it. Yeah, we could do freehand. I think freehand would be better in this, so we'll just kind of color pick and just freehand it a little bit. I'm just wanted to fix some areas that got a little messed up. The only thing is that I would say is that we did lose, like the horns that we did lose those, unfortunately. But I mean, this is like why, when you sculpt, it's good to kind of pre-plan things out when you're sculpting, because before you do something crazy like that, it's good to pre-plan before you even start sculpting. And especially in 3D, you should always be planning out all your projects before you really start, unless you're just sketching out ideas and you don't know what you want to make. But if you know what you want to make, your first attack should be to plan things out before you even do anything. Figure out how you're going to do this piece. Does this piece need to be separate from this piece? And when we do a real project, we're going to plan it out, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, what I mean, as far as that goes. So, all right, I'm not going to go too crazy with this, but I did just want to give a little bit of, make it a little dark in his nostrils. If we jump out of solo mode, we can turn off this dragon, and let me go back to solo mode. So this is the dragon we had. So we just transferred the color information onto this dragon by using that morph target switch. All right. And you can see the morph target is gone now. Well, actually, it's not gone. It's only on the lowest. It's on the lowest level. If we hit switch now, and we go all the way back up, we get something like this. I mean, if you like this, then great. But if you don't, you can go back down, click switch. You know, and maybe you want to, maybe you want to, what do you call it? You know, redo this part. I mean, redoing that isn't too much trouble, but it's all right. Sometimes, you got to redo stuff. It always comes out better the second time around. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure I showed you guys that because I realized I was painting on the wrong one in the other video. And we did all this cool detail, and it's like, oh man, what am I doing? So that was that. All right. So that's kind of like where we are right now. We could always I'll fix the horns later on. It's not important right now. Let's move along. I mean, where were we? We were in the transform, right? So we were up to use posable symmetry. I generally don't use posable symmetry. But basically it's to activate symmetry based on topology. In order to use, you must first press activate symmetry, right? So your symmetry has to be active. So that's the activate symmetry that's talking about. And posable symmetry will evaluate your mesh's surface along the axis chosen in the symmetry subpalette, right? So by default, it's X, which is basically like left and right. That's what it's talking about there. Now let me dock this to make it easier. And make sure it's selected. Once activated, posable symmetry will allow you to pose your mesh and continue to work with symmetry on. I never really used posable symmetry, to be honest. We could probably, we could try to test it out and see if we can make sense out of it. I could probably append maybe a shape or something. Oops. We probably just do it on a shape. It's like a dark colors on. I'm going to have another lesson for you guys for materials to really hit home with materials and teach you how to do transparency and things like that. But that's going to be like in a future video. Because there's a little bit of a trick to do transparency, in ZBrush and stuff like that. But I'll teach you everything. Don't worry about it. We'll learn together. Oh yeah, I did forget to mention you could actually paint too. You could paint. You can poly paint as well with symmetry on, with the radial symmetry on. So not only can you sculpt, but when you're done, you can go back and paint as well. So I want to make sure that you guys knew about that you could do that. Okay. All right. Posable symmetry. Let's see if we can figure things out here. Let me just go back to transform. I'm going to turn off the radial. I don't need it right now. I'm going to go to X, turn off Y. All right, and get to crackalack in here, I guess you can say. I don't know if really we're going to be able to see. Let me see. Use posable symmetry. So I'm trying to use posable symmetry on this. I want to see what happens. This might be a little too dense too, which I forgot. I probably should have went to a lower level with the denseness of things. The more geometry you're working with, the longer things are going to take. It says symmetry results, 0% symmetry points were found. Symmetry map was not stored. Okay. So this didn't find anything anyway. We'll get back to that though. Let's not even worry about that. We'll get back to that in a later date. Info. I don't mess with these. I think it's just like where it is in space, where the object is in space, things like that. 3D copy, I think you can like, that allows you to make a texture, like if you had a texture and then you do 3D copy, I think what it does is it puts it on there. I don't think it's going to be able to do it. I think you have to, there's a certain steps that you have to take in order to do it, I'm pretty sure. I think, yeah, it has to hover over the object. Texture, select it. 3D copy is most effective when used on a 3D object with a texture selected. .3D copy. So I think we have to turn on texture, but I think you have to have UVs as well. And we didn't learn that stuff yet. But we are going to learn UVs, maybe even today. Like I said, things can get kind of crazy. I still have these menus here. Gotta get rid of this. Okay, like there's a texture map feature here. So if you load it, you can load a texture. Oh, it did work. Well, that worked. But usually it has to be UV'd. I don't know if it UV'd it or anything. Did the 3D copy UV it? It can't. I don't think it can. Is there a UV map? Let's see. It says we got to do a lower sub level. Hold on. Oh, there must be some kind of UVs on this. The thing is, I never UV'd this. And you're probably really confused right now. But let me just check something. I'm just going to skip ahead. Let's see, symmetry. This doesn't have UVs. There's no way it could. See, we unwrap it. Okay. Well, I'm not sure how 3D copy works. I don't use it personally, but there's other methods that you can use, like the projection master and things like that, to project textures on your mesh. I mean, you can apply textures on your mesh, as you can see here as well. Once you have UVs, though, and UVs is like a sheet that wraps around your object. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had home ec class, but in my home ec in school, we had to make pillows one time. So the pillows have seams in it. And if you lay a pillow out flat, you know, there has to be cuts certain areas, right? And then it wraps around the object while it gets filled with, in this case, it gets filled with cotton or whatever, or stuffing, and gets sewn together. But there's seams to where it was opened at, and on that, you know, and it wraps around something. So that's kind of how I think about UVs. You know, you have a cut somewhere where there's an opening where you can peel it off. So there's always going to be like a line somewhere, and you got to hide that line usually. You know, in games, they usually hide the line like at the bottom or something where you won't see the seam. So you don't see, you know, where the texture is, you know, messing up at, kind of thing. Looks like there's a seam right here, as you can see in this example that we have here. Right here, there's a seam. So it looks like that the UV master made a seam. It made a weird looking seam. If we take off our we'll do UVs though in a little bit. I'm probably kind of jumping the gun here. It's actually in this one. But let's go through, let's go in order here, guys. Let's go in order. All right. I don't know why zplugin wants to go in there. I wonder if I close this and then go zplugin, it still wants to go in there. It's weird. It's like certain things want to jump into certain palettes sometimes. Now, I wonder if I can just manually drag it into the... Yeah. No, I can't. Or maybe I could. I'm just trying to drag this palette into the other thing here. Yep, you can. You just gotta wait till it highlights. And be patient, which I'm not. Okay. Alright, so let's go. Now we're up to the zplugin menu. And we have 2 menus left to go through. So, and then we still got a lot more stuff to cover, but the zplugin menu allows you to change the increment of your brush under miscellaneous utilities. And this is helpful because by default, you know, your brush, if you go to make it bigger, you can see how long it's taking. So I can actually skip and say I want my brush increments to be 20, right? And if I say 20, I can get my brush bigger and smaller a lot faster to be able to work. So that's something you could probably play around with to your liking. It just allows you to get to make your brush bigger or smaller faster when you're going through. Interactive light is exactly what it says. It basically makes interactive light on your model, and I'll show you how to use it. And I don't think it's anything. It's just an interactive light. Like, it's not going to mess up the lighting on your lighting situation here. It's like a temporary thing. It's just to check to see how things are looking on your model. To demo that, let me just take off this texture so things aren't so distracting here. If you click texture on and off, you can turn your texture on and off. So if you're working with textures in ZBrush, it's good to have this saved somewhere, you know, to be able to get to easily. Because there's going to be times when you want to check the way your mesh looks and then the way your texture looks with your mesh, or your material rather. So I'm just going to pick something, doesn't matter. I think this is where we were before, right? We were here, we turned our texture off. We could turn it back on if we wanted to, it doesn't matter. I'm going to turn it off for now. Well, it does matter actually. And if we use the interactive light, interactive light allows you to move a light around. But this one I think has the materials baked into it. So in order to use interactive light, you have to choose a standard material, not a matte cap material. Because I probably mentioned this before, but like these matte cap materials, these ones have the lighting information baked into it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. See, there's already a light on there. But if we go to this one, now if I do interactive light, it's not letting me do it. Hold on. Let me go off here. Interactive light. Press mouse button. Should just be able to move my light around. I did this before. It's a little weird. Let's see. Press and move mouse left, right, up, down interactively to see the current lighting situation. Okay, you got to press up, down, left, and right. So this is just a way to kind of move your lighting around. I don't use interactive light, though, to be honest with you. It's kind of finicky. It can make your program crash. Oh, it does change the light. You could either use, like, you know, a light cap, or you could just go to light, and you could just change things from this light thing. And you could dock this too here as well. The thing is, when you use a light cap, you got to make sure you click new light first, and that'll apply a light cap to it. And then you can move a light around on your material to see what's going on. And this is helpful when you're sculpting. But I believe, you know, this would serve purpose better, because I think now we have like 2 lights, but this might be better, you know, just to use this just to start out with. It's really your preference. Most people use this one when they're sculpting to see, you know, the forms, to make sure the forms are out enough and stuff like that. It's good to move your light around, just like you would when you typically sculpt in real life. Somebody has a light and they move it around to see the shadows to make sure things are popping out in 3D. You know, does this look flat? Does this stick out too much? These are kind of the questions that'll run through a sculptor's head when they're sculpting. These other things, there's a text file viewer. I don't use it. You can just view text files with it. You can click here to view what's been updated. You can go to the ZBrush homepage by clicking here. You know, that's what's in here. Deactivation, that allows you to deactivate your license. You know, for example, if you need to move your ZBrush, copy of ZBrush to another machine, you click deactivate license, and then you add it to that machine to react, and you can activate the license. Because if I try to take my copy of ZBrush and add it to another machine, it's not going to let me unless I deactivate this first. So that's what that is. Projection Master. I'll show you. I think we did. Did we do Projection Master? I don't think we did. Basically, you know, you can drop like colors. I think it's going to open. You can paint in Canvas, so that's right. Projection Master drops you into 2D mode. You can see I'm out of 3D right now. I'm only in 2D mode, so now, you know, any changes that I make in this mode here, it's going to go back and change it. But to my knowledge, I believe, because I'm in RGB and you can see I can't even color in this right now. I believe that the Projection Master, well, I chose color, so I honestly don't use this. But when you're done and you make a change, you click Projection and then you click Pick Up Now. It was supposed to get colors, it didn't, but we can click Pick Up Now, and now we're in 3D. So now all the changes that we did in the 2D are in the 3D. And you know, this can be a useful thing to do, like when you have alphas and flat things and certain things you can probably use. What if we did all of these? Shaded and material. Okay. So I'm painting, I believe, with one of these brushes here. Here we go. If we go down to Tool, my current tool is a single layer brush. And if I switch to a different brush, this is called a simple brush. This used to be, like I said, this used to be in the old, like when ZBrush was just a 2D application, these are the things that people would use. But, you know, you could do smudge. So you can do certain things, you know, in this mode, in projection, and then transfer it to the 3D, right? So we can do some crazy stuff like that with smudge tool. There's a glow brush. I don't think that's going to work in this mode. There's a depth brush, alpha eraser. Oh yeah, if we want to erase part of this, we can erase a little bit of this. So projection could be a fast way to work, to get something complex as well. So I'm just like erasing pieces of this here. Probably, I wonder if we erase the middle, if it's going to know what to do. Okay, so I just erased a lot of this stuff, and then when you're done, you click the Projection Master again, and you click Pick It Up. Oh, okay, so it actually didn't do that. Okay, and you can see what it did though on here. It made it circles. It didn't actually put a hole in it. So yeah. I'm gonna look deeper into this though, just to see if we can find something useful out of doing things with it. I mean, there's a few useful things in there, but I typically don't use it much. But it is useful. Okay, so don't knock it until you try it. Okay, so moving along, there's a quick sketch, and I find quick sketch. I can't even say it. I find quick sketch to be pretty awesome when it comes to concepting something out, if you don't know what you want to sculpt. I like to go in here and, you know, kind of just flesh things out you know, like this, more or less. And this is one of those things that I found helpful when I'm kind of not sure what I want to make. You know, just sketching things out, just a nice quick sketch might help me figure out what I want to create, you know what I mean? So, and it's doing it in symmetry. And what it's doing is it's sketching with this alpha here by default in something called pen shadow. And if you click P, you can see there's a pen A. And pen A is more like a darker color, so it'll fill in with color value. And it's painting flat color. So you literally can just concept everything right in the ZBrush, basically. Like, you know, anything you want to do. You know, you could just concept basically right in ZBrush whatever you want. But I really do find this useful. I'll show you how I use it. Let's see if we can make something worthwhile here. And because symmetry's on, you know, it's a treat, you know. So pen shadow is that, and you can see the pen shadow has an alpha. I mean, a texture applied to it is like a checkered board, and that gives like this weird kind of feeling to things. So I'll show you. So let's just say we were like let's say we were fleshing out that dragon, you know, or something. Maybe, I don't know. You know, sometimes, you know, you might want to flesh things out before you even sculpt to kind of, you know, to kind of see the shapes and just to see how things are. I'm doing it super fast, so. And you might, I don't know, you might find shapes in there too that you might like as well. It kind of looks like a wolf now. Yeah, so that's what you would do. You would do something like that. You know, go over it a few times and see what you want to do. And it's actually on like a 2D plane as well. I think if you click Quick Sketch again, I think it goes away. Oh no, it just makes a new one. All right, so let me just see something here. You can see too when I made my brush really big, you could see the checker pattern in there. You see that? I mean, it's good like when you're concepting probably to work big to small, you know, to see what you can come up with. This is kind of like one of those things that not a lot of people knows, you know, ZBrush can do. And like I said, it's really good. It's quick for concepting out stuff. Yeah. I was trying to show you guys how we would use it in practice, if I can. I'm trying to remember what did we do to get out of this mode. And I think it might have to do... Oh, okay, so there's a plane. It's a plane 3D that it creates. You can see right here, it creates a plane 3D. So it literally creates like a plane, like, you know, something on a plane. Hold on one second. It happens to me sometimes. I don't know where it went. I think I killed it. Where are you? Come back, plane. Can we switch to a different one? Let me see. I don't know what happened to it. I think I killed it. All right. But let me just show you in practice what it does. I'll make a new one. And this time I won't mess it up. Oops. Of course I messed it up anyway. Oh, I still have it. It's so weird. It's literally on a flat plane, like a thin plane, so I think it was there the whole time. Like when I flipped it, I think it just kind of like disappeared. But whatever, it doesn't really matter too much. So basically, what you would do is you would sketch something out like this first, whatever you want, right? And with the quick sketch, and then what you do is you append a new subtool, so you can append like a spear, whatever you want. Go to the layer of the spear and change the material instead of being flat to like something you can actually see what you're doing with. Make it smaller, and then you would just kind of just start sculpting on top of this. And that back piece would be, it'd be your guide, pretty much. So, yeah, that's how that would work for the most part. And then you could use transparency. Well, maybe you can't use transparency. I thought you could. You have to make this transparent. Okay. No, but you still can't even sculpt on it. So weird. Alright, well, you can turn transparency on and off, I guess. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Don't turn ghost on. Sorry. Turn transparency only on. What is wrong with me today? Alright, turn transparency on only. And now I could literally see the outline of what I created underneath. And this could be cool to come up with something, And then what you would do, you could do like, go back over it, like maybe like a standard brush. And you see those shapes there? You start bringing those shapes out, whatever those shapes are. And then you'll start to kind of get a face going on. I don't want to go too crazy into this, but you can pull this piece, or you make a new piece, whatever you want to do. Yeah, see this piece getting stretched out. And this is where Dynamesh comes in handy as well. I didn't use it yet. I mean, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I mean, this could just be the starting point of whatever you're creating. And if we go to solo mode, we can see what we made so far, from that to that. And then you just start, you start seeing something. You can start going back over it a little bit, adding more geometry to it. And next thing you know, you start to have something, Of course, you have to fix this. You go back down and, you would smooth all this out and fix this up. You have to give this a lot of love, but smooth it out. I pull things out and smooth it, Pull out, smooth, pull out, smooth. And you eventually start to get something going on. And this could be the beginning of a sketch, right here. Like a sculpty sketch. And I could already kind of, like I said, I could see like a face coming in there. Maybe some angry guy. Push this back. Push these parts back. And you can already start to see a face coming in. Well, then what I would do is I would fix the resolution. So, we'll go Z-remesher. We'll just do a Z-remesh on it and bring our intensity down and smooth. I kind of like the way this is going. It's kind of looking like fabric. That's kind of cool. Just start kind of smoothing certain areas out. Whatever you want to keep. Should probably stop using the mouse to smooth things out. And whatever you want to keep, just move it out. Yeah. Maybe go over the back a little bit, you know, with a trim dynamic or something. See what the trim dynamic does there? Kind of cuts things nice. Bring this down. And then you could smooth again. Go over it a little bit. Maybe we'll go over it with the clay. Maybe, I don't know. Put a super low alpha. You know, I probably do this at a lower level to get more out of it. Get more out of your mesh. Do it at a lower level. Probably be better. Make him like a little nose like that. But already, I'm getting a little carried away with this. It happens. But already you're kind of starting to see something come out of here, you know. Daming standard's good, you know, for separating things like this. You know, maybe make it really big. Separate it out. Trying to see how this would work here. I wonder if we can. It's good to experiment. Perfect hair. The perfect hair under the hoodie. So this looks like a guy in a hoodie pretty much at this point. It's official. It's a guy in a hoodie. You probably mask off certain areas and change it up. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is how we kind of figure things out. I don't even know what it is. Some guy in some hoodie. Maybe I'll work on it a little later on or something. Looks like he has teddy bear ears. What if he was like an executioner with teddy bear ears? That would be sold. It's going to be an executioner with teddy bear ears. No turning back. Oops. Fix this up. It's all getting messed up. I'm going to give him some hard features. Shadow this off. All right, but let's move along. I'll probably save this and work on this a little later. No, seriously, let's move along. I'm pretty sure you get the idea, though, for the most part. So yeah, quick sketch. Quick sketch is awesome sauce. If anybody asks, it's awesome sauce. So if anybody's like, oh, I don't know what to sculpt today, pull out your quick sketch, man. Get to work. There's always something to sculpt. I want to hear it. Pull out that quick sketch, son. He's not a happy executioner, I'll tell you that. Yeah. And it, you know, when you sculpt, it's a back and forth process. It's even more back and forth for me because I didn't really plan this out, but yeah, it really is like a back and forth process when you sculpt. You know, it's like, how does this look? Does this look good? Should I fix this? Should I do this? Should I do that? What time's dinner? One second. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, let's not go too crazy, but you know, basically we went from a quick sketch. Like I said, we went from this. I mean, this could even be like some. It looks kind of like he's like a cat skeleton person with a samurai thing on his head. I mean, you know what I mean? You could see so much different stuff. But yeah, we went from that to this, so not too bad. I mean, I would still work on it much more, but you guys get the idea. Hopefully, you could see the power. You could feel it. You could feel the power. All right, it's kind of looking cool. Maybe we'll work on that a little more later. I'll save this as something else. I guess. I'll just call this head hood man. I don't know. All right, so let's move along. We looked at Quick Sketch. All right, 3D Print Hub. 3D Print Hub. Okay, what it allows you to do is you can import STL files in here. STL is like the format to do a 3D print, and there's import options in here. We're not really going to go into that. We're not 3D printing or anything. I currently don't have a 3D printer, but we are going to do, and in the later episode, we'll make something, and then we'll make it so that we have it prepped for 3D print. Okay, and we'll go over that. And this is the dimensions. You know, you can set the depth of the model before printing, and you could choose if you want to do it in millimeters or in inches, and this converts to real life inches. There's size options in here. We're not really going to go through that. I could also export this as an STL. If I wanted to 3D print this and send it to a company, you know, I could basically, because there's online companies that will 3D prints as well for you. But if I choose export to STL, it'll save it to STL format, and then I can give it to my printer and say, hey, can you print this for me for free? Yeah, right. But of course, you know, for some money. So right here too, there's if you have a Formlabs printer, it's send to Formlabs preform for printing. So this sends to, I think, Formlabs program to 3D print. Formlabs 3D printer. Export to OBJ. There's export options in here. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. But that's what that is, you know. Right now we are in the Z plugins folder, and a plugin in ZBrush, it's an add-on, really, right? So you're going to see things in here. You might use them, you might not use them. Okay. There's an adjust plugin. I don't use this. Adjust draw size, cursor movement. Adjust RGB intensity, cursor movement. Adjust focal shift cursor, and I think it's the way like your cursor moves and stuff like that. Duh. But I don't mess with those settings. You can if you want. Blend shapes. I should mess with blend shapes. Blend shapes are cool. Blend shapes are good for like animation and stuff. When you want to do different faces, you can create a new sculpting layer and you change the face, and then you can export blend shapes. So it says export 3D layers as a Maya blend shapes. So if you have Maya, the 3D program Maya, you'll be able to, use those blend shapes in Maya from ZBrush. All right. So I'm not really going to get into that right now. We'll do that in another chapter, though. I promise you. We will get through that. Decimation Master. Let's show you how Decimation Master works. Usually, when you decimate something, you make a version of it that another program could handle looking at, kind of. I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to duplicate this. Oh, you know what? I am on this. Okay, that's cool. Where did our dragon go? Did it disappear? I think it did. Oh well. Oh no, the dragon was here. Let me just save this. Not this per se, but save the dragon that we worked on, so we don't lose him. Because I'm not even sure if we saved it or not. I'm gonna do, what is it, Dino 14? Like I said, I always save in iterations, and even though I have like 14 different save versions, I'll probably keep the last 3 or 4 just to be on the safe side. Or what I'll do is, like, before I make like a change, like if I'm posing this, before I pose, I'll make a change and say, you know, before pose, and then when I save afterwards, it'll be like posed, so I know what version is which, or before color, after color, before Z-remesh or after. You know, if I'm unsure about something, I might save it like that. Sometimes it's not uncommon for me to do that. So let's go back to in our tool. Just think of these right here as your most recently worked on files. That's how I look at it. ZBrush keeps them open. You know, whatever you've worked on, as long as ZBrush is open, it's going to show here. So the last thing that we worked on was this guy right here, right? Was Mr. Executioner in the teddy bear hoodie. So Mr. Executioner and teddy bear hoodie, let's say we need to bring him in another program. So I already duplicated this, right? So I'm going to show you right here. If I hover over this, you can see we're dealing with a lot of polys, right? The active points is 942,000. So we'll duplicate this up a few times. And you can see we're subdividing geometry to 15 million, which is really high. If I was to take something like this that's 15 million and try to bring it in maybe like 3ds Max with the geometry like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work well at all. Okay. So, you know, being at 15 mil, you know, what if we want to keep the way this looks, but make it lower resolution? Well, that's where decimation would come in handy. So what you want to do is when you use decimation, you could do something, pre-process current is the first thing that you would do in Decimation Master. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at your mesh. It's going to analyze it, as you can see up top right here. It says it's analyzing mesh. And it's basically going to take a look at it and see what it's dealing with. Like, okay, what did you give me? This probably... This might take a while to analyze, I think. Well, let's see. If it takes too long, I'll cancel it and make it smaller because I don't want to bog this part down. I'll give it like another 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. And like I said, the thicker your geometry, the longer it's going to take. I mean, we're dealing with 15 million right now. So it's going to take a while. It looks like it's going through here. Now it's doing processing. It's computing. It's looking at what it has. And depending on how your computer is, it might start sounding like a jet about to take off. And 15 million is taking a little bit of time here, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to cancel by hitting escape. And I'm going to go to, on this subtool here that we're currently on, just to save you guys the time, let's just drop it down to 4 and delete higher. Alright, so this is 942,000. Okay, I can deal with that. So we're at 942,000. And now we're going to go back to the zplugin menu. We're going to go to Decimation Master, and we're going to click Pre-Process Current. And it's going to analyze the mesh like it did last time, but it's going to be a lot faster. See how much faster it was? Now we're at 15 million. I mean, there's going to be times where you're going to be at 15 million for whatever reason, and you might have to do this way. Usually, like if I'm using Decimation Master, it's literally just to bring this into another program like 3ds Max. Let's say I want to make him accessories in 3ds Max, and I need this as a guideline. You know, I need to bring this in as a guideline so I can fit something on his head. You know, make it to model it on his head in another program. That's usually the reason why I would use this most time. So we just did pre-process current. And then right here, there's all you want to mess with is this, which is Decimation Quality. And is it going to tell me what it does? No, it doesn't. but it's going to give it like 20%. So if I just do this now and I click, decimate current tool at 20%, let me just give it a second. I don't know why this is open. It should be closed. So I did a decimate current. It looks like nothing happened, but something did happen. So it went down to 376,904 instead of 900,000 as far as geometry goes. And then I believe, I think if you do it lower, you would hit Control Z if you don't like what it is. You would do it lower and hit decimate current again. And then you would just take a look at that. 200 and I think I went higher. 2 million. All right. So let's Control Z. Decimate current. I think the higher you go, the more it decimates. And decimate's just removing geometry. It's making a smaller version of it. I was waiting for it up there because it was still doing its thing. Also, if you look at the mesh, it gives you when you decimate, it will show you here, like, how dense the mesh is and things of that nature. Sorry, it's been a while since I used decimation. I'm going higher actually. I'm not going lower. It's alright. Let me decimate it. Okay, so let's do like. Oh, right here, you see the number of polys, so it's saying that the poly count is going to be like 1 million. See right here, it says it's going to be 714. So let's try this one, decimate current. That's a little easier to see. So it doesn't give you clean geometry. That's not the purpose, really, of decimating something. The other purpose to decimate something is if you want to bring this into another program, so you can do a retopo, so you can put clean geometry on top of this, like and trace it. Like if I like what I have, I can decimate this, bring it into another program, and start, making my geometry on top of this. Maybe if I want to make him a mask or something. So that's what you would do. You would do something like that pretty much. I'll show you in a future episode how I would do that. I retopo in Max, in 3ds Max usually, but I'll show you. You could do any program you want, really. You also have presets down here for the poly count that you're trying to reach for your decimation. So do you want it to be 250K, 150K, 20K? You could set a custom here as well. So if you have a specific number you're trying to hit when you want to make it when you want to decimate it down. But yeah, this just makes the model a lot lighter than it was. So if we look at our model now, it's 158,000. So bringing a 158K model into 3ds Max as opposed to bringing a 15 million poly model is a huge difference. And yeah, Max could definitely handle this. Maya can handle more geometry, FYI, but whatever you want to use. Fbx is another format on the Fbx Export Import. It's another format that you can export your model out. This just helps you get your model out of here. out of ZBrush into another program. That's what export does. Whether you're bringing it into Substance Painter or Maya or Max, whatever the case is, you can do an export in here. There's like a trick to do, like, for Substance Painter, where you can export, Fbx. Like, there's options in here. So if you have polygroups, you can export the polygroups as certain materials and stuff. So when you go into a program like Substance Painter, you can paint on the different materials by polygroup, which is pretty cool. So, meaning if I made all this a different polygroup, like if his face was one polygroup, which is a different color, and then his hoodie is a different color, that's two different materials right there. Two different polygroups, two different colors. And then I click export polygroups as materials. I could export it as a FBX, and then bring it, and then click export and bring it into into Substance Painter. Then I'll have skin material. I have a leather material. We're going to go over all that stuff, though. I don't want to bog you down. I really can't show you that right now because we don't have nothing worthwhile to do it on yet currently. But yeah, that's how that works pretty much. So this is just different Fbx export options. Multi-map exporter. So multi-map exporter allows you to export maps out of ZBrush if you're using them as like, to bake out like a normal map to use like for a game engine. Like I could literally just turn these all on right now and I can bake out all these maps. I can click create all maps on this and then save it. I guess we'll save it in here and we'll just save it as map or something. All maps created and exported. All right. So let's take a look and see what it did. If we can. Hold on one second. So what it did, it should have made hold on, let me double check one other thing. Maybe it didn't work. Let's see. Map. All maps created and export. Do we even have any maps? That's the other thing. Let's do a Bpr render. I don't know if we even have any maps. I'm not sure if you have to do that first or not. We probably got to turn these things on. Oops, I don't want to click that. Okay, so it's not saving out the maps. And I think it's because we didn't do a render yet. Although I could be wrong. But if we go to render properties and we do a best render, I think if we do a best render like this and then do create all maps and call it map, maybe that might work. The ambient occlusion takes a while usually when you do that. Let me just see if it did anything. If it didn't, we'll come back to that. I don't usually make my maps in ZBrush, to be honest, but it's all right. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to that. But yeah, so if you have a normal map, though, if you want to export normal maps and everything like that, you can go ahead and click export normal map. And normal map is the the way like it bumps on the surface. They use them in video games usually. Vector displacement is another map. Displacement maps are used mostly in movies and stuff to displace it on the surface, not normal maps. Ambient occlusion gives like the shadowing effect. Cavity map fills in cavity areas, like dark areas in cavity. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that stuff. We'll get back to it. Polygroupit tip is new to ZBrush 2018. Send current subtool to polygroup. So polygroup basically opens another program where you can make polygroups. Trying to see if we can see how this looks. To my knowledge, yeah. You control the area you want to make a polygroup out of by clicking and then dragging the slider a little bit. This is actually going to make polygroups out of these things. And then you can click grow or shrink. I haven't experimented too much with this yet. Well, our stuff is not that good, like geometry wise. So, well, the one that we're doing it on, at least, it's not. You can see I can grow this selection now, and ZBrush is going to grow it, you know, to where you want it to be. This might be better. This might show better on the other model. Let's take this model for example. And let's see if we can polygroup him or use the polygroupit feature. If you hover over it too and press Control, it'll tell you the polygroupit plugin will allow you generation of new polygroups by clicking on the surface. The polygroup will be created based on the curvature of the surface. So it's basing it on the way the geometry is of the surface. And you can see what it did before it brought my model into here. It made it like a lower sub level. Put it down to the lowest level, I believe. So I think if I want the face to be one polygroup, oops. Oh, it's kind of going over. Maybe we start in the middle, it might work better. Symmetry should be on. So now I have symmetry on with the polygroup. And you can grow your selection. Grow, grow, grow. But this is going like with the geometry, the way the geometry is, basically. So let's just say that's one polygroup. So you can keep that as a polygroup and click OK. Then if you look here, now I have that as a polygroup. So it's just another way to kind of polygroup things instead of masking it off. You can use that method, but it follows the curvature of everything. So if you have nice geometry, it's going to give you some good polygroup work because it's following the curvature. That's polygroupit. Scale Master. Scale Master is just what it says. It's another one of those programs that allow you to set real world scale to things, and it's helpful for 3D printing. It's another one of those things. But I mean, you could also use it too. If you do things traditionally, you know, maybe you want to make your head, you know, so many units tall or whatever. You know, you can go ahead and do that with this. And you can click Resize Sub Tool. Now this just resized this subtool, and you can see it got a little distorted and made it huge. Because what it's trying to do, I'm obviously not going to say this one, but what it's trying to do is it's trying to resize things in this inches that I was specifying. So you can see these sliders kind of move together for the X, Y, and Z, which is your measurements. You know, so if you wanted 12 inch, excuse me, if you wanted 12 inches, 12. I don't even know why I didn't do it. I don't really use this too much, but it can come in handy if you have issues. Zbrush Scale Unify. Zbrush works best with the subtools with Max XYZ. This will unify your scene for ZBrush usage to keep the existing scale. You can set a scale for your scene itself, so I think so you can't go past that, maybe. But this selected subtool has a generic size of 100 by 100. And it says, do you want inches? Do you want feet? So this is just another like real world scale measurement type of thing. That's all this is. That's what Scale Master is. And if you click about, it'll take you to the website. It'll tell you about it more in depth on how to use it, which is super helpful. All right, Subtool Master. So for Subtool Master, I think what I want to do is I want to use it for. Let me show you how it works. Let's go through a few things with Subtool Master first. First, if you just click Subtool Master, what this Subtool Master is meant to do is it was meant to be like a fast option. It is a fast option in order if you have to apply like the same effects to multiple subtools, or you have to mirror multiple subtools, or you have to fill or merge multiple subtools together. This is what does it. Okay. So the first option we have here, which is a little small to see, but I'll tell you, this is called multi-append. And if you do a multi-append, you can append different files together. You see, if I hold Control, I can collect different tools together. So what I can do is it's going to attempt to merge these together. Not merge them, but bring them together as a subtool. Okay. So let me show you what it did. What it did basically. You can see my dragon is now in the scene. So we merged multi subtools together into one scene. Okay, so there we go. We got all our dragons. We got our head thing here. So we got all that going on. I'm just going to delete these heads for now out of this file. This will make the file size a little smaller and easier to deal with. Why do I have 3 dragons? If I hit F, I can zoom back in on that other dragon. I think this was the one that, yeah, was this the one that we were working on? Still don't know why we have 3 of them. I'll delete this one. There he has his hair back too. Do a render and get his hair back. Oh, you know what? This is going to take forever, I think, because I have the other stuff on. Oh, no, it's doing a Bpr render. Yeah, so that's what we had so far. Something like that. All right, so see, it literally brought everything in from that other file. So that's what multi-append does. Append, just think of append as like to add into the same file. Or if I append an object, I'm adding the object to my project. Like I'm adding it in here as a subtool on its own layer. We don't need this. We don't need this. All right. So that's what that does. Oh, I forgot it disappeared. Yeah, let's use it once. That's right, and then it just disappears. Okay. Subtool Master might be good to have in your custom menu too. You know, you might want to throw that in your custom menu. Also, I mean, right now, I mean, I have so much stuff open. Let me just close. Click to close these things out if you're not using them. Kind of make it a little easier on yourself as well. It's a lot of stuff in ZBrush. Just in case you didn't know, there's a lot of options in ZBrush. And there was new plugins too that came out from ZBrush site, which I haven't even put in yet. But I don't think I put it in, to my knowledge. But they had one for better color selecting and some other one. I'll have to add it in later on. I'm going to do that now. Subtool Master. Yeah, so Subtool Master is what we were in. So there's a Save Z tool to disk that'll save it to the disk. If we click Subtool Master again, we'll get back this menu here. And you can see this menu, you can't move it or anything, so don't try. I don't think you can move it at least. I think this closes it out at the bottom. It's just there. So it's like one of those things. There's a multi-insert. That's the next thing we're going to look at. Now, a multi-insert. Let's go back to our older dyno and just to a multi-insert. I'm trying to see what the multi-insert does and how it differs, from the other thing here. It looks like it does the same thing to me. I really don't use multi-insert. Let's see. You can't hold control to find out. Not sure. I usually do multi-append, but it looks like multi-insert does something similar. Or maybe it allows you to insert, instead of just appending, maybe it allows you to add geometry? I don't know. Or like an OBJ file? Not sure. Next is export. And right here, there's export options. You can choose OBJ format. You can turn off creasing, if the object is creased. Creasing, when the object is creased and you subdivide, it'll keep a hard edge. Single polygroup for each subtool. If you turn this on, each subtool will have its own polygroup color. This could be good too if you're exporting, into another program. Show hidden point, clear mask. This gets rid of any mask. Show hidden point, and then allows you to export as an OBJ. So you basically just click that and export out the file, and then just click save, and he'll go ahead and go through, do what he needs to do, and export out your OBJ for you. All right. Now it's writing polypaint. I'm going to hit escape. Hit escape anytime you get into something that you don't want to do, just to get out of it really quick. What's funny is that the same options that are here are here too. So you don't have to click this. They just keep everything in here. Like this was the way it used to be, was only this alone. So I'm used to that. But you can see we have a multi-append here. Oh, here we go. It actually tells us. So multi-append imports meshes will be added at the bottom of the subtool. ZTL, OBJ, MA, STL, and GoZ files are imported. And this one says imported meshes will be added immediately below the selected subtool. Okay. Import meshes will be added at the bottom of the subtool list. And this one will be added below the subtool. Okay, so this inserts it below the subtool. This adds it to the bottom of the list. Yeah, I mean, you can manually just add it to the bottom of the list, so it really doesn't matter which one you mess with. Export visible subtools. So anything with the eye on it, this eye here, it'll get exported. Let me delete this one. See, when we did that append, it added these in there, so I'll just delete them out because we don't need them right now. You know, clean out your files. You know, if there's anything you don't need, delete it, get rid of it. That's like our tentacle wheel we made. I don't remember making that. It's so weird. All right, this was the good dragon. I should probably start naming these things. I mean, you can name these things, you know, if you want. Go ahead and name it. I'll call this working, so I know I'm working on it. And the other one was just like an older one or whatever. So, all right, so let's go back. We went through multi-insert, went through export, so we can export visible subtools if they have the eye icon on them, which was here, this little eye. If you click, you can turn the eyes on and off. I think if you hold Control and click, or no, Shift and click. Man, maybe it was this one. Hold on. Hold Shift and click. That's what it was. If you hold Shift and click, you could turn on everything at once. So if you need to export everything, you have 100 files instead of clicking the eye on every little thing. Just hold Shift and click. Okay, all the eyes will go on for all the subtools. I'm going to turn that off because obviously we do not want all that on. We just want these on for now. All right, so that's pretty much how that works. Mirrors visible subtools. So mirror, if you click mirror, it's going to show you what this does. So we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. Real quick, let's give him some basic teeth if we can, really fast. Maybe I'll just do that. I don't know. I'll just push this off the side. I'll make this smaller. I'll make this a little like this. All right. I'm not going to go too crazy with this stuff. I don't like that. Let's just keep it. I don't go too crazy, but I just want to show you guys how to do this. Just hit this like this a little bit. That's it. Whatever. All right. So let's just say this is our tooth, right? So I'm going to get this into place. Turn on the transparency too if you're having problems doing this. You know, honestly, his mouth would have to come out more usually. I usually put the teeth in like early on. They're just kind of like resting on his lip for now. I could always fix that later on, but let's just pretend for a second that his mouth was open and he had teeth, right? Let's just do that. Let's just pretend for a second that his mouth was open and he had teeth. All right, I'm going to duplicate this like one more time. And I'll just move this. Okay, so he has 2 teeth for some reason. All right, let's just say we want to duplicate and mirror those teeth to the other side. I'll show you how to do that. First, I'll hold shift and I'll turn everything on and then turn everything off. Then I'm going to just click to have these teeth show in here. Then what I'll do is I'll go to Subtool Master under zplugin and we would do a mirror. And when you do a mirror, you can choose if you want to merge it into one subtool or if you want to append it as a new tool. I'll just merge it into one for now. And it says what axis do you want to do it on? Do you want to do it on the Y? It shows an example of the result. We want the teeth to be on the other side of him, so we want to do it on the X-axis, but there's also, like I said, there's the Z. The Z kind of does it on top. But so we'll do the X-axis. We'll click OK. It's supposed to merge visible subtools, but it didn't. Oh, you know why? Because these are on 2 different layers. No, but these are visible. Whatever. You could just click this and just go back and do it again. Click it again. Who cares? All right. So yes, that's the mirror. That's how you mirror stuff with subtools. Now he kind of has teeth, but still not the best teeth in the world. If we kind of pulled this out, probably be a little better. Looks a little better. I mean, before I would even start painting and everything, I'll put his teeth in and all that, and give him actual gums and stuff for his teeth to go on. So that's what, like I said, that's where reference comes in handy. But you know, that's roughly how we would do that for the teeth. We could always redo it later on. Merge. So this merges any visible subtools as one tool. So the way that works is this. If I append a square and I append a ring, make sure everything else is off. I only have the eyes on these two, this square and this ring. You can see that it's inside of it. You know, in transparency mode, you can see that it's inside of it. This isn't really a this is transparency mode. It doesn't render in transparency. This just turns transparency on in your scene so you can see what you're doing. But what I'll do is I'll just pull this out. So I'll pull this here. And then what I'm going to do is in Subtool Master, we'll just click Merge. And it says if you want to, if these have polygroup colors, you can preserve that. That's what that button does. Or you can just merge them. Or you can merge and delete the extra subtools. I'm not going to do that because I want my subtool. So I'm going to click merge only. And then I'll just click OK. And then what it should do is it should merge this. Yep, see, it just merged these down to one thing here. And now what you would want to do is you want to go back to your dino. The dragon we had, I don't know, I call him Dino. I guess he's a dragon. I don't know what he is anymore. Where's that file? Is it here? I don't know. Well, what we could do is we can append back the dragon, the dino. This one says Dino 8. That's just the dragon itself. But basically, it merges the subtool and it brings the other stuff back. So we've got a billion files here anymore. Well, now what I can do though is I can just let's get rid of this one. I can append the merged into the scene. The merge piece, I can append it into the scene. Okay. We lost our teeth, but it's all right. But yeah, we can append that merge piece back into the scene, so it merges it together and puts it as another subtool. Basically, that's what merge does. But I don't really use that merge. There's another merge as well, which is here. So you can do merge visible. That'll do the same thing. This will fill the visible subtools with a color. So if I just click fill, well, it'll either do mRGB or color. So if I do fill, it'll say you want to do color, or you want to do material, or you want to do both. Let's just do both. So now everything is the same exact color right now. Our dragon's the same color. That spear thing we made is the same color. Everything's the same color. So this could be fast. This could be a fast way to do things, you know. If they're supposed to be the same material, for example, I mean, you know, you could do that fill and do fill material. I mean, that's super fast, you know, instead of having to select everything one by one. Or if I just want to fill a color, let's say I want to make it red. I don't think it's going to work with this material, but we'll try it. Yeah, it does work. Okay, cool. All right, so that literally filled everything with red. Anything that was visible, actually. Let me rephrase that. If the subtool is visible, it will fill it with the color. If it's not visible, then it will not fill it with the color. Okay. All right. Let me see here. We have a few more things to go over. We'll continue later on, and we'll go through the rest of these settings as well when we get back, and then we'll definitely get to the unwrapping as well. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.